How did I get into acting? Um, I did a lot of amateur acting as a child. My father was a very keen amateur actor, so I always was in plays at school, and I went to university. I didn't study drama. I studied history at Sheffield, and I did a lot of theatre. I left, and I did various different jobs that I wasn't very interested in. And eventually, after a relationship breakup, I started doing more theatre, and it led me to go back to working with people doing stage work at the university that I'd been at. And eventually, we put together a theatre company based in Sheffield, a small scale touring theatre company. And we went off and we ran that for 5 years and did lots of new writing plays. So that's what got me into it. Okay, well, I played a character called Erik Hot Helmet, the Naughty Norseman, and I watched the episode after you'd invited me to come on this, and I've forgotten the actual name of of the character who plays Erik Hot Helmet, but he's somebody who does a strip act. And he dresses as a Norseman, a naughty Norseman, and he has a specially made horned Viking's helmet, which can shoot flames out the horns as a sort of big finish for his strip act. Um, and yeah, how did I get cast? Well, that's an interesting question. I'm not sure. I think I'm trying to remember who the casting director was on it at the time, and the name escapes me, but I think I knew them, and they'd had me up for quite a few bits and bobs, different things. And I think that's probably why I got seen for it. And the director, when I met them, interestingly said, where are you from? And I said, I'm from Birmingham originally. He said, oh, great. Can you do a Birmingham accent? Because he quite liked the idea of Eric being somebody who was quite, as he says himself, I'm not a pervert, I'm an artiste. Because his neighbours accusing him of being a pervert because of him prancing around in his Norseman costume, and he's seeing him that way, and he liked the contrast between being somebody very down to earth and having these aspirations to be, a performance artist. So that's where that came from, and I read for it and got the job. So there you go. Um, so yeah, so I'd seen the script. I knew what was required. And I guess you want to talk about actual shooting, the day of shooting. So um, we turned up on location. It was interesting. I think we're probably, because it's one of the questions I know you asked before about costume and stuff. We may talk a little bit about that afterwards. But I had a very brief costume, and it was specially made for me actually. Or certainly one element of it was, which was the rather lurid sort of leatherette pants that Eric the Naughty Norseman wears. And they were really uncomfortable to wear, I have to say. Not a pleasant experience. But the rest of it, the cloak and he wears the sort of straps across that. That's something that the costume had found from somewhere anyway. So we rehearsed, not in costume. And the director basically showed us the setup of the scene, what he wanted to shoot, and how he was going to shoot it. And we were using an exterior and also an interior. One of the flats we actually shot inside. Most of the stuff was shot inside the flat. So we rehearsed. It was pandemonium. I think it was the school holidays. I might be wrong about that, but certainly anyway, I've never seen so many children trying to kind of get involved in filming, and just the sheer level of excitement these kids had about this film crew turning up to shoot a really well-known television series on their estate was extraordinary. And it was quite difficult to get quiet and stuff like that to rehearse because everybody was like talking, shouting. People you could see were out on their balconies, all the flats round. So it was amazing. And I don't know if this is relevant to this bit, but I had an idea that as soon as I appeared in the costume, as I would have to do to come outside for the bit that's shot outside, it may get quite a reaction from such a large crowd. So, trying to be helpful, I said to the first assistant director, look, I'm going to come out dressed like in that costume. Would it be an idea if I put the costume on now, just came out, walked around a bit in the costume so people get used to the idea of me being like this? and then they can get it out of their system, and then when we shoot it, it's not going to be a problem. So he said, well, if you're willing to do that, then that would be really helpful. So I went in, I got changed into this really strange costume, and I thought, right, here we go. And I went outside, and it was quite extraordinary because it went completely silent. And I walked round, and it was like you could hear a pin drop. I think people were so shocked by the appearance of this character that it just completely silenced them. So that, and I went back in and they went, oh, well, that was interesting. That was an interesting round. Didn't expect that. So that was it. Yeah. And then we set about shooting. And I think I'm right in saying we did the interiors first and shot all those first. And that was relatively quick. We managed to get through it relatively quick. Although we did have one moment when they first come into the house and catch me practicing my act, they were wearing the full oxygen mask stuff. And as we were shooting, this bleeping sound started going off, and the props rushed in and went, "Oh, gotta take them off, take them off! They've run out of oxygen." And they did. They were getting them off, and the regulars were going, "Bloody hell! I hate when that happens." And apparently, it was quite a regular thing that they'd go in and they'd have just about enough oxygen to shoot the scene, and any hanging around because often you get delays and stuff like that. And have to start shooting again and things. So I thought, oh God, that's not very nice. I'm going, no, we're used to it. But you do panic a little bit when you realise the bleeper's going off. Can they get in quick enough to get the mask off and stuff? So that was interesting. Yeah, it's interesting going in as I think the Americans call actors coming in on regular series day players. You're just there for the day. And it is quite challenging. It can be quite challenging. Um, because mainly because all the regular cast know each other well, and they know the crew well, and the crew know the cast. Um, so you have to kind of fit in, you have to slot in, and you've got to do your bit. And some of that is like with those scenes required quite sort of extreme kind of acting, as it were. When Eric goes outside and loses his temper and smashes his neighbour's block spoilers, pot plants up. You've got to just kind of throw yourself in. So if you are welcomed in a friendly way and feel supported and and get sort of generosity from the other actors, it makes a big difference. And that was very much the case on London's Burning. It felt like a really good almost like an ensemble sort of sense of how the actors work together. And there was a lot of humour. And sometimes you could, there's a lot of in jokes, and you can't really join in because or if you do, it's a bit naff. People are a bit like, why is he trying to join in? But it wasn't like that. It was very open, and they were quite friendly and welcoming. And because they're doing, I know what it's like. I did a short stint as a regular on the bill, and I know that when you're shooting episodes like that it takes it out of you. And so sometimes you know it, it's always good to be courteous to other actors. You don't have a right just because you're a regular on something to be sort of a bit snooty with people. It's not a good look. And you get the best out of people by really working with them properly as you would if you were doing a stage play, and having the generosity to sort of really listen to them, and you get better performances out of people, I think. So, given all the restrictions and the limitations of shooting a regular series, because they can be shot quite quickly, I think it was a nice experience actually. And then when I shot in studio, it was just me. And again, I think they're different. It was a different crew. I think it was a different. Yeah, it was a different crew shooting in the specialist um, studio at 3 Mill Island. Again, just really nice people, very professional, and just appreciated for doing what you were doing. And I think there was some sense in which there was a lot of uh, patting on the back. Well done for wandering around in a pair of leatherette pants. And a horned Viking helmet being a strip artist. So that was nice. And I believe I think, well, actually, because of the nature of the filming, that was mostly what we were shooting was just those scenes that day. Because sometimes what happens with the schedules is they're quite full, and if they're in studio, then they'll shoot. You might well be there while quite a lot of your episode is being shot, and your scenes are you're slotted in and shot in your scenes. On location, it's a bit different because it's a bit more complex. You've got to travel to and from location and set up on location and control quite what was actually quite a difficult environment to shoot in because there were so many people around. And of course, obviously, because they were using the fire engines, the tenders, and the equipment and stuff like that, it took longer to shoot those scenes. Um, so yeah, I think I'm right in saying I think they did. I think we mostly shot in the afternoon, if my memory serves me right, and I think they'd done some studio stuff in the morning. But being television, you kind of end up getting called at the crack of dawn, and then sitting around doing nothing, waiting to put your costume on for several hours. But that's acting. Acting is 80% hanging around waiting to do your bit. Like Jack Rosenthal, I do know's work. I don't know him. I think I met him briefly once many years ago because he came to see a theatre show I was in because he knew somebody in the cast. And of course, he did the quite. I think I'm right in saying he did the Knowledge, didn't he? The quite famous shot for film for TV thing about black cab drivers, which was really brilliant. Um, and a very good writer, I think, a really strong writer, and very much in that tradition of British TV writing. Um, really quality stuff, I think. Um, uh, I think they were, and it's interesting that the premise of the start of it as a series was um, that sense of that a group of people working together, how they interact, what the dynamic is like, and of course all the sort of adventures that they get involved in. It's kind of made for TV, isn't it? Really, in a sense. And I don't think there's anything much that's been quite as well done in that sense about emergency service people since, really, to be honest with you. I think they did it so well that anybody coming along would be copying them in a sense, I think, to be as successful. But it was fortunate that the idea came originally. So it set the bar quite high, I think, in terms of quality. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, we talked a little bit about my attempts to forestall any disruptive interventions by the onlooking crowds at Tower Hamlets, which was greeted with complete silence, which was quite entertaining. I'm just trying to think, and the incident where the regulars ran out of oxygen, had to be rescued from their oxygen equipment. Uh, I think yeah, it is a while ago now, so I'm sort of like trying to dredge it up from my memory. But I do have it is quite vivid as an experience, as you can imagine. And I think that yeah, overall, I mean, without over egging it, I did find that the experience was really pleasurable. It can be quite tough sometimes, as I say, going in as a day player into that environment and trying to fit in. And I've not always had good experiences doing that. And it does depend very much on what the culture is of the crew and the cast. And I think there it was really, the people doing that kind of work, I think as actors, they knew they were fortunate in lots of ways to be doing something that was quite classy, that was exciting, that pulled big audiences at the time. Because, of course, this is way before the days of streaming and all the competition that creates. It was what they call it, appointment to view type TV. It was Sunday night, wasn't it? And so you'd get really big audiences, and they knew it. So I think it created an environment in which people felt fortunate and therefore enjoyed it, and prepared to really get into it and enjoy it, and that came across. So that's my main memory of it. That and prancing around in a silly costume and smashing plant pots up and saying, "I'm not a pervert. I'm an artist. I'm an artiste." It's one of my favourite lines. I do work as an actor a lot in the training world now. So I do a lot of corporate training, help people to communicate better. I won't go into a lot of detail about it because you have to experience it to understand it. But it's a good use of transferable skills, I would put it, from the world of drama and training as actors into helping people communicate better. And it's quite an enjoyable way of earning your living. I quite enjoy it. I've kept my hand in with the acting, do a lot less TV now and film and stuff like that, but I have done a fair bit of theatre projects up until 2024. I was meant to do one last year with a friend who's a writer and his wife who's a radio producer, but we'd been doing some theatre with her and she'd been directing. But I was unable to do the project last year for a variety of reasons. But I did get cast in a film, which is, I think it's coming out this year, starring Clive Owen, called Kristallnacht, which is about the pogrom against the Jews in Germany in 38, I think it was 1938, the Kristallnacht. And I went over to, had the good fortune to go over to Vienna and shoot that. And that was, yeah, that was good fun, actually. I really enjoyed it. What is a very heavy subject, but an enjoyable experience. Nice working with other actors. It'd been a while since I've been in front of a camera, so that was uh, nice. Although, as I say, very heavy subject, but yeah, good, really good crew to work with. Really good mixed German, Austrian crew. Just really nice people. And Clive Owen was, yeah, he was good fun to work with. It's funny actually, coincidence, sort of coincidence. He did a series back in the noughties where he was some kind of like a clairvoyant detective or something. I can't remember what it was called now. And I remembered I'd worked with him before, and I said, "You won't remember." And he went, "What was it?" And I said, "Well, there's an episode where I appeared as a fireman." So appeared as the head of a fire crew and had to have a scene with him where I'm pointing out this is where the fire started and this is how. So there you go. There's a connection there. We've come full loop. Well, it's nice of you to ask me, and it's always nice when people take an interest in your work, and yeah, it's fun. It's fun to remember and get back into it. And it was nice to see the old episode. It's a long time since I've seen it, so that was good fun. So thank you very much for asking me, Andrew, and good luck with everything.